it's never a fun day when you get word that one of your childhood heroes has shuffled off their mortal coil. With Terry Funk, because of a previous venture I was involved in, we had actually reached out to try and get an interview with him, and we're told that he's in an assisted living facility. He's not able to give interviews anymore, and that was 3 years or so ago. I was like, okay, well, I'm prepared for it now. I kind of get it. With Windham, Rotunda, Bray Wyatt, The Fiend, Husky Harris, call him what you will.
Whatever you want to call him, Eater of Worlds.
That one obviously surprised everyone. The fact that he was only 4 months older than I am.
Dude, reports said he was supposed to be coming back to the ring around September time. Next month was the timetable.
And I mean, literally 8 months ago, we were standing in the airport in San Antonio. You guys were getting ready to get on a plane, and
we saw him in the airport.
Literally down the tunnel, it was almost like an entrance tunnel, comes Bray Wyatt. And
he gave us nothing but kindness and generosity, not to just us, but to like everybody that went up to him. And what's crazy is there wasn't, like the usual scalpers that come around with, ooh, here, sign this, autograph this. It was a genuine, like, people are coming up and saying, thank you.
Well, and I think a lot of it went back to that promo he delivered promo he delivered on SmackDown after the Extreme Rules show, which there's very few moments in wrestling that leave me in tears, and that was one that left me in tears, because I've been a fan of not just him, but Barry Windham, the Blackjacks, Mike Rotunda, the whole lineage of that family. And
to some extent, Bo Dallas, even if you didn't like him, I enjoyed Bo Dallas in the B team and down in NXT.
Well, he was still, as they call it, wrestling royalty. And I'm such a big history guy on pro wrestling. And there are very few guys in the modern era who kept my attention. CM Punk, MJF, Seth Rollins, Bray Wyatt, Bryan Danielson, the sort of the handful of guys who I was always trying to at least see what they were up to.
What was coming next?
Yeah. And I thought, whenever Bray made that speech, I thought, and this was coming on the heels of Trips just having taken the book, after a couple months. And I thought, this is so great for professional wrestling, because we once again have a member of the Windham Rotunda family that's going to be in a featured role in pro wrestling. And yes, Bray's in-ring work was not the greatest. He was no Ricky Steamboat. He wasn't Ric Flair.
Matches, and it didn't show so much in like his last run of work. But go back to 2013, 14, 15 with his matches with Bryan Danielson, his matches with Cena. That match at WrestleMania 30 made me a fan of Bray Wyatt against John Cena.
Well, I see. The thing was, and I remember where I was when I was watching him and Taker at Mania.
Mania 31, his match with Taker.
And I believe
Mania 32, he was in the ring with The Rock.
The match between him and Taker, that was the year. Was that the year after Brock ended the streak, or the year before?
Yeah, that was the year after. So they were trying to like the new dark gimmick and passed from Taker to Bray.
And I honestly, watching that match, I still to this day, and I've said it to several people, they ended the streak a year too early. It should have been Bray Wyatt.
Could you imagine what
he could have
his career?
Well, and Taker has said this many times. He did the job because, that's what, he was told. But he still to this day says he didn't think Brock needed it. Had you
Nobody
saved
thinks
that for
Brock
a
needed it.
had you saved that for a year later and you gave Bray that rub, I
It took him almost another 2 to 3 years before he truly got his recognition, and that was when
yeah.
he beat AJ Styles in Elimination Chamber for the WWE Championship for the first time.
I really feel had Vince not been Vince and not just had him do the job to Brock, had he waited a year and done it for Bray, I, I, I I really think the course of the business may have very well changed because if you put Bray in that spot that, okay, Taker's on his way out and we've got this new guy who's going to be that next face of fear, phenom, whatever,
New face of fear, or
you know,
another gimmick that doesn't really get enough recognition. Like people remember Bray Wyatt for the 3 gimmicks. They remember him for the cult leader gimmick, they remember him for the Funhouse, and they remember him for his last run. Or
yeah.
Funhouse ties in with the Fiend, but they remember him for his last run.
Well, see, I loved the whole Wyatt family swamp dwelling psychopathic.
So different.
It was perfect.
In a more realistic type of landscape of wrestling,
Yeah.
it brought back, when we talk about it all the time, the lapsed fans. Bray Wyatt brought some of those lapsed fans back.
Or at least, kept me halfway paying attention.
Invested, yeah. Like CM Punk brought him back, but Bray Wyatt helped keep them invested.
I went back and I watched on YouTube when Bray had the children's choir singing to John Cena in the cage, and it gave me, I hadn't seen it before, and it gave me goose. I was like, how was this like? It was so perfect.
Dude, I went back and watched damn near probably 100 Bray Wyatt promos the day he passed, because nobody in this era of wrestling has been able to get that type of charisma out in that way while also telling his character and his story through his words.
Yeah, and it's so odd that in this day and age, and I honestly think with how we have writers instead of bookers anymore, you can't write Bray Wyatt.
No,
you can't give. I say you can't. You couldn't.
You can give him bullet points, but you just have to let him be him.
Yeah, you couldn't write a script for him, just like you couldn't write a script for Ric Flair. You couldn't write a script for Dusty Rhodes. You couldn't write a script for Roddy Piper
or Austin either.
or Austin or any great promo, a great guy on the mic. You don't write scripts for them.
Hell,
And
I don't even know if they gave Bray Wyatt bullet points at a certain point, because he was building that match with The Undertaker 8 months in advance. Once he started calling himself the new face of fear, he himself started planting that, put me with Taker. Put me with Taker.
Yeah. And as we saw on that episode of Raw, which I get knowing Mark Calloway as we've come to know him, the promo he did with Bray and whatever it was he whispered in his ear.
Dude, we'll never know now.
Unless Taker says, which, I mean, we know how Taker plays things close to the vest, which,
yeah.
and if he never tells us, I'm fine with that, because that's one of those rare moments that you get between the aging veteran and the younger guy, where we don't know what was said, but we know the gist. It was passing the torch.
It was impactful. Even Bray said that the words that Taker said were,
and that's why when we ran into him in San Antonio, I I mean, I had this quick little firefly flicker in my brain. Should I ask him what Taker said? And I was like, no, that's between him and Mark.
Mm.
Um, and I sit here and I think
I don't
it
even
almost
know if
doesn't
Bray.
matter
I
what the
don't even
words
know if
were.
Bray would have told you, man, because Bray's
No,
been
he wouldn't. That's why I mean, even if I was that gumptious, and I'm not, or well, I would say that disrespectful. I think that's one of those things where it's if ever in a given situation, whenever you and I are somewhere, and I pull you aside and I whisper something in your ear, we know it's between us, so I'm not going to ask, that. But I had this, I just, was like, thank you, Bray, for everything, and I wasn't even going to approach him, but then you
I
and
had to.
Dev just, right? Because I mean, I've had the opportunity in my life, fortunately, to meet and work with people of fame, and fame doesn't really have any effect on it. It's just that old saying, I've met powerful people and I'm not impressed.
Mm.
Not that I wasn't, impressed, with Bray. It's just
Hey,
it's an old cliche.
lest we forget, you were taller than Bray by like an inch.
More than that,
You had a good little bit of height on Bray, but
yes, but let's also not forget the fact that Bray is thick as a brick shithouse, and I am not.
yeah.
Uh, But I mean, it was after you two ran over, I was like, oh well, fuck it. I was like, and
Well,
after you guys did it
earlier that weekend,
for
I
a
had
quick,
missed out on Arn Anderson. Like me and Devin literally
yeah,
saw Arn Anderson walk by, and I was like, "I'm not
yeah,
stopping that man. He's walking with a purpose right now."
yeah, and I passed Kofi Kingston when I got off the plane
Dude, we're
in
a
San
close to Kofi
Antonio.
Kingston, so I don't think we
Uh,
can bump into him next year at Orlando.
yeah, well, I mean, and also he was on the phone at the time, and he kind of had his head down, like he was, and I was, I'm not gonna bother him.
Mm.
Uh, but Bray he was so damn gracious, not just to us,
So
with
good.
everybody. And since then, that videos have come out of him with fans, the little kid. He treated us like that little kid.
Mm-hmm.
He really did. I mean, he really cared about the fans, and
And then
that's
another thing that we should bring up is we brought up the character. Triple H has even went out and said that Bray Wyatt was too creative for his own good. That is something that we don't get with anybody anymore in pro wrestling. Bray Wyatt was the most creative and able to work it with his brand.
yeah.
Like I said, he's lightning in a bottle, and unfortunately, we won't be able to open that up again.
And it's so if I'm to understand everything correctly, and I know, Maddie, you've been on top of this more than I have. So essentially, and this couldn't have been long after we met him, he caught COVID.
Yeah. So, and
And
this is what was allowed, to be talked about because JoJo and the family allowed
yeah,
SRS to put this out. I'm not gonna say what TMZ put out because that was without the consent of the family. You can look up
right.
that article if you want, but I'm gonna give peace to the family. Uh, yeah. So apparently, he had contracted COVID, which exacerbated a
Well,
heart.
and to quote our favorite John Wayne from his last movie, The Shootist, a man's death is nobody's business but his own, and how someone goes is
Yeah, and how? Yeah,
none of our affair. Ultimately, it's you're here or you're not, and how you go is
But
it's nobody's affair.
what we do know and what was allowed by the family was Bray Wyatt had contracted COVID. We don't really have a timetable for when he caught it, but it exacerbated a heart issue. He was getting better. Fightful had reported a couple weeks ago that Bray
Hmm.
Wyatt was getting better and was, excuse me, and was slated for a return in about September. So
Yeah,
literally next month, 2 days is September. So
and
the
well, I
fact
mean, if I'm thinking the timetable, how things worked out, it couldn't have been long after we met him.
it had to be not long after that.
Because remember, he was supposed to face Lashley at Mania. And this was the end of January. Mania is April, so he had to have gotten sick not long after we met him.
It's just such a horrible, tragic. The last thing that he did in the ring was with his brother Bo, and it was them attacking Hit Row. Now, this whole situation, in the last year, we've lost so many people, but we've lost 2 active wrestlers in the last calendar year. We've lost Jay Briscoe, and we've lost Bray Wyatt just now.
Yeah.
Both of them were active wrestlers, and both of them were the older brother of their families, which...
Well, the thing with Jay, it was such a freak occurrence. I mean, he was in a car. He was either driving his daughter to or from cheerleading or something like that, and
someone was on their phone.
Yeah,
in the wrong lane.
With Bray, well, and again, apparently he had some kind of a congenital heart thing.
Yeah, apparently he'd been dealing with heart issues. And the COVID exacerbated those issues.
Which, again, given how I've reported on my health in the last year, and my last bill of health, let's say, was not too shiny. I've made some drastic cuts to my diet, as the people who know me. That's soup for another Sunday. I've started to make drastic cuts to my diet to try and alleviate things that the doctors are saying, like, hey, you got to start taking care of this shit, or we're going to have to, start looking at medication to.
And that's another unfortunate thing about the situation is you brought up Bray was only 4 months apart from you.
Yeah.
This brings mortality into such a grim.
You're never too young to die. Unfortunately. And again, with Bray, I think of the what could have been. Who could he have worked with? As hot as LA Knight has gotten. There could have been more work there.
If it wasn't for his work with LA Knight, I don't know if LA Knight, because his program with LA Knight is what really got the chance over for LA Knight.
It's getting back to the congenital heart thing, because we know Triple H had the health scare with his heart
issue as well. His sticker wasn't working too good either.
Well, the thing is also, with Triple H, that kind of surprised me because of how great a shape he keeps himself in. Bray was not a bodybuilder. He was not an Adonis like, Hulk Hogan type. He was Bray was, a big, thick dude who could move. Yeah. And I remember when we met him and we'll get back to Terry Funk later. I wanted to quote to him the line from Roadhouse, "I thought you'd be taller." I really did, because when he came through and I saw him, I was like, I really thought he would have been a little bit taller, but
everybody looks bigger on TV.
Well, yeah.
Unless you're Kevin Hart.
But he was, what was Bray like? 5'10", maybe 6 foot in his boots.
I think Bray was listed at like 6'2".
Okay. No, Bray was, I stood next to him, and Bray was 5'10", maybe 6 foot. He was wearing boots, which Bray always.
They list him at 6'3".
No,
okay,
because I'm 6'4", and I was a good.
That was his build height. His actual height is 6'1".
Okay, because I was a good 3/4 of my head above him.
Yeah,
but at the same time, it was like, holy shit, this guy is built like a brick shithouse. Like,
he's built massive.
Yeah, well, same as all the the Blackjack, same as Barry, same as they were all well built guys, and I love the picture, and I love Dolores' comment. Your picture next to him, on Facebook, and like, this is my man next to Bray Wyatt, and yes, he's. I forget the word, but it was something. Alora, one of her colorful, funny phrases that Alora is only capable of. Uh, you know, but as I thought back about it, and I'm like, man, like, for his height and weight and build, I mean, heart issues don't seem too far out of the realm there. I mean, because
No.
he carried more. I mean,
He carried a little under 300 or 300.
yeah, I mean, obviously there was muscle.
Oh no,
There
I was
was
about to say
muscle there.
he was not fat. Like that man was
No,
solid.
no.
That man was
Uh,
solid.
I mean, if you, me, and Dev both came at him all at the
We
same
would all
time,
lose.
I would put the odds on him for just tossing all of our asses out of his
Dude, I'd
way.
put life savings on that just because I'll need them for hospital bills.
Yeah, and I mean, and so fucking gracious to us. I mean, it was the day after, no, 2 days after the Rumble, which I didn't expect to see. I figured everybody had flown home or to the next event by then, because the Rumble was a Saturday. There was Sunday where
Where we
we
watched
hung out and
football,
sent.
and
Then
then
this was
Monday.
Monday morning.
Yeah, this was Monday.
Yeah.
Raw. Monday Night Raw.
Well, so he was on SmackDown. So
And they do travel separate again. They do travel.
yeah. I will say this. I've shaken hands with many people in my life. Bray's hand. I mean, I've got a big hand,
Can attest.
but his hand. It was like, it's very rare that I shake hands with someone where I'm like, this
Man, your hand is
motherfucker.
big.
What? I was like, one, haymaker from this guy would put, Mike Tyson on his ass.
Oh, Devin's phrase.
Because one of Bray's fingers was about, you know, almost two thicknesses of mine. I mean, just a massive dude.
To take a phrase that Devin has coined, Bray Wyatt was a wagum. Like,
yes, Bray Wyatt was a fucking wagum. He was a whole ass grown man. Well, so was Barry was like what, 6'8", 6'6", 6'8"?
I wouldn't doubt if they build him at that.
Well, he was he was billed at 6'9".
Okay.
So that's why I think Barry was somewhere around like 6'6".
Yeah.
I always, whatever it is, if someone's billed at, like, okay, yeah, Kevin Nash billed at 7 feet. Okay, Kevin Nash is about 6'10".
Isn't Big Show like the only legitimate 7-footer wrestling's had in the last several years, other than Omos?
Show, Omos, obviously Andre.
Taker's not. Kane isn't.
No. Legit 7-footer. What about Great Khali? Was he 7 feet?
Khali was shoot 7 foot. I think he was shoot 7'3".
So Khali, Omos, Andre, Show, yeah. Well, see, I was having a conversation with my former podcast partner John Rice the other day, and we were talking about Big Show, and I remember when he debuted, and I think I showed you, or you've seen, when he first debuted, he was like 23, 24, and he was 7'4", and he was trimmed, like he was a big, lanky.
He was built like a tree. Like that is how a tree is built.
And that's the one thing that I was so sad about his career, that Show put on the weight that he did, because had he kept the weight off and tried to look as much as he did when he debuted, the athleticism that motherfucker had, it was insane.
Could you imagine watching him weekly leapfrog motherfuckers? Yeah, show was massive, but and you were talking about the what ifs of Windham.
Yeah, and just thinking about guys he could have worked with, things he could have done.
Think of what he could have done in the wrestling world. What he could have done for the horror genre of movies and shit like that, or even the podcasts that he would have done. Would have been something to listen to. Like Wyatt.
I've actually got tall boys tonight.
I noticed they were a little taller than your koozie. But yeah, no, just what Bray Wyatt could have given us after wrestling is what and what he could have given his family after wrestling is what I'm mostly sad about. Because he gave us a decade of pro wrestling. If he would have been done, I would have been okay with it.
I know Taker has been doing his one-man show, and obviously in the last few years
it's still so weird to me.
It is. He's opened things up a bit, which he did it at the right time. I'm not going to say plus or minus on it, but he did it at the right time when he retired.
Dude, he's found a way to hit another oil reserve because the stories he's able to tell.
Because he kept everything. You remember? It was like that movie, The Birdcage, where Robin Williams is trying to. They're like doing like this rehearsal for a dance, and this kid is like, what should I do? And Robin is like, you do an eclectic celebration of the dance. You do Fosse, Fosse, Fosse. You do Martha Graham, Martha Graham, Martha Graham, or Twyla, 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 or Michael Kidd, Michael Kidd, Michael Kidd, Michael Kidd, or Madonna, Madonna, Madonna. But you keep it all inside. Taker has found a way to keep it all inside for his whole career, and now he's opened up the floodgates, and we get all these great stories from him. And I think about Bray. Bray. I'm 36. Bray was 36. Say if in 5-10 years, Bray started his own podcast, and just not just stories that and talking about the legacy of his family, because you forget the Blackjacks when they were in AWA, their manager was Bobby Heenan.
So, damn. So he
could. And then you get from the Blackjacks, you get Barry and Mike Rotunda. Well, Barry Windham was one of the first members. He was in the first class of the Four Horsemen. Mike Rotunda.
Sorry, before we continue. Is Barry Windham one of the most underrated pro wrestlers of all time?
Absolutely. There was a time you could argue, Barry Windham was one of the stars that Dusty stole from Florida when he went to work with Crockett in the 80s. And there was a time you could roughly say 85 to 87, 85, 87 to 88, somewhere in that roughly 3-year period of time, that most everyone in the business would have told you Barry Windham is the best worker in the business. This is when Macho Man was still going, Piper was still going. Barry Windham was arguably the best pure worker in the business. And especially the fact that I equate Barry Windham to Glenn Jacobs in the fact that they were both roughly the same size, but they could move, they could work, they could have great matches with anybody. Completely different gimmicks, but they kind of mirror each other in my mind when I go back and I watch tapes of early Kane or Isaac Yankem DDS, and then I watch tapes of Barry Windham in Florida Championship Wrestling in the early 80s, and then transitioning to the NWA with Crockett 85, 86, 87, 88 with the Horsemen. And it's like these guys are basically kind of worked a lot in the same way, and they were just big. They could move, but they could have great matches. They could bump, and that was something that was kind of lost. Big guys who could move and bump. Taker could do it. Kane, Glenn Jacobs, and Bray. It was like a big guy who could bump and sell.
And another thing, like you say, his agility. Nothing was more proven about Bray Wyatt's agility than the fact that this 6'1", 300 possible man could do the fucking crab walk from one
Yeah.
corner of the ring to the dead center.
Yeah, that's not something that guys that size should be able to. That is just
not a lot of normal people can do that.
yeah. I mean, I mean, here we are. It's 2023. I was mentioning the lineage of the family. Okay, so let's basically take Bray the last roughly 15 years between WWE, NXT, Florida Championship Wrestling.
We've had about 15 years of his in-ring.
Okay, then before that, we've got Mike Rotunda, Barry Windham. Then before that, we've got the Blackjacks and Bobby Heenan, who was their manager. We're looking at a family lineage of over 40 years. And now I'm hoping that Bo Dallas gets some kind of a chance.
Dude, because he's one fucking hell of a wrestler.
Yes, because we're talking about, great wrestling lineages. We have the Funks, the Guerreros, the Rhodeses, Windham, Rotunda, these great lineages of wrestling, the Von Erichs. I want to see Bo Dallas at least given that chance to try and do something.
Well. Like, it was shown in his work with the B team.
Well, now,
Bo Leave character.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong here. Bo Dallas was Uncle Howdy.
Yes, he was the one under the mask as Uncle Howdy. So he was able to work with Bray before his passing, which still makes it bad.
Yes. Think of you. I'm not trying to say this out of glee or joy under any circumstances whatsoever, but think of the promo Bo Dallas could cut on a Raw or a SmackDown after the dust settles and the grieving, where he comes out and
just lays his all
he comes out as Uncle Howdy, unmasks himself, tells the world who he is, who his brother was, and that he is here to continue the family legacy. You have got a built-in money shot baby face.
You got the character for this fighting spirit.
You have got a baby face that people will literally. He cuts a 7-10 minute promo,
which Raw will give him.
Bam, and you have got a baby face who is instantly over, strictly on the weight of the family lineage, Bray's recent passing. You've got a guy who the fans are at least going to give a chance to.
And
they are going to
be good.
Talent.
He is a good
and they don't need to do it right away. I'm not
give this time, because
give he and the family time to process this shit.
Through the X app, it's still
I'm thinking
that still aren't okay about this. Like, even Devin, our co-host, he's not doing okay physically right now. We wish him the best, but he's not been okay since the passing of Bray.
No.
This is a hard situation, just like the Jay White passing, just like the Brody Lee passing.
I'm saying you don't even do something like that with Bo until Survivor Series Rumble.
Yeah.
You have to, especially with a passing, you have to give it time to breathe. You can't just give him time, give everything time. And and again, I'm thinking as a booker here.
Yeah.
I'm thinking as a booker. I'm thinking okay, I'm like, Bo, we just had this happen in August. I don't want to hear from you for 3 months.
Yeah,
you go and do whatever. I'm going to be getting in touch with you after Survivor Series, and we're going to see where you are, and maybe Rumble, getting into Mania season, somewhere in there, we're going to start things if you're ready.
Speaking of, I did see a post from someone close to the Rotunda family, being Bray and JoJo's family, that says JoJo herself has started declining donations to her family, saying that her and her family don't quite frankly need it. and to start donating them towards worthy charities.
Well, I know that WWE said any merchandise is
Yeah,
going to go
I'm
to.
pretty sure that also ties into her saying no public donations and stuff like that.
Did they say which charities in particular, or?
I saw people they're going to be donating to the Red Cross. A lot of people are going to be donating to the Red Cross.
Well, and again, we're still in the wake of this because first we got hit with Terry, which was a slap in the face.
Which I will give Cap his entire time to, because he's our historian. I'm going to give Cap his time to talk about Terry because.
Well, no, because I got a lot to say about Terry Funk, and then it's all good. But I was just thinking about Bray, and all this has been Terry was a slap in the face. Bray was a kick in the balls.
No, Bray was a stab to the heart. I have not felt this. I have not felt this painful since Jay Briscoe, and I hadn't felt that painful since Brody Lee.
Well, I remember I was speaking of, the Rumble we went to, and you called me after you and Dev, got off the plane, whatever, and I picked up the phone. I was like, "Reach for the sky, boy," because I knew how upset you had been about it. I had not followed the Briscoes as much as you. Obviously, I was aware of them, and I loved their work.
The dog collar match is still a fucking classic, before and after the passing.
Yeah. Now I was just thinking, with something because RAWBall is, still kind of. We know we have our annual stream against suicide, which is MLB opening day every year. But I was thinking, maybe somehow we can, come up with like a Terry Funk, Bray Wyatt, award of the year or something. I don't know, just something to where we. I would remember these guys who.
If we're gonna do
were huge for us.
If we're gonna do the Bollies, I think the Terry Funk Award should go to the most hardcore wrestler on the world. And I know you're gonna hate it, but this year it would probably go to Moxley. I know you're
soup for another Sunday. I would prefer not to discuss bamboo shoot.
Dude, as much as you don't like him, I know for a fact Jon Moxley does Terry Funk proud.
See, the thing, and here's where I distinguish the Terry Funks and the Mick Foleys from the Jon Moxleys. Terry Funk and Mick's shit made sense.
Go watch.
Yes, it wasn't my normal cup of tea, but nothing Moxley has done has made sense to me in years.
Go watch Funk and Foley's Japan shit. It was just a tournament based around who can kill each other.
Jon Moxley cannot cut a promo to save his fucking life. Terry Funk could cut a promo that would envelop you. But I guess, getting off of Bray, I will say this because we're about half an hour in.
We'll give you another half hour,
Bray, thank you so much for everything you did for me as a wrestling fan. Thank you for keeping my head in the game, keeping me interested in professional wrestling in an era when there are hardly any guys out there who really can keep and hold my attention. Thank you for being so gracious to me and my friends. Damn, pal.
Another thing
we're gonna miss you.
Another thing Bray did was bring like Easter eggs to pro wrestling. Like he brought that. What the fuck is going on behind this promo? Like he made you pay attention to every little thing going on during the show.
Well, it's like the Blackjacks were the badasses. Barry and Mike were the great workers. Bray was the smart promo guy, and that's been a history. The Armstrong family. Jim Cornette did a great breakdown of how you had Road Dogg, who was the promo guy. You had Brad, who was the great worker. You had and that's how it is, and the DNA doesn't seep down equally. Each guy kind of gets a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Bray was that guy in that family who he wasn't the worker Barry and Mike were. He wasn't just the big kick your ass badass that the Blackjacks were, but he had the mind, for just cutting a promo and telling a story.
And we talked about reinvention a lot with Jericho. Bray Wyatt took reinvention to a whole nother fucking level.
He did. I will, as I didn't necessarily like the Firefly Funhouse.
Oh, I loved his Mr. Rogers gimmick so
just
much.
Because. Well, see, that's just because it was a little too hokey for me. But I liked the Fiend. Like it was like sort of like a split down the middle. It's like I hated the Firefly Funhouse stuff, but I liked the idea of the Fiend, this guy who is just indestructible.
Side, yeah.
So it was. I didn't like the setup, but I liked the payoff.
And we all loved, this last, not necessarily the work that he put out, but we loved the Bray Wyatt that.
And I think we also have to consider, knowing what we know now about the heart issue, how much was that affecting him in his last year or two, whatever, of competition? I mean, because obviously the work that we saw in ring from him, limited as it wasn't what we were used to.
Mm-hmm.
And again, not that he was Ricky Steamboat or Ric Flair, but it wasn't quite. Yeah, so you have to kind of wonder, was he purposefully slower, taking his time more to not put as much of a strain
on himself?
We don't know. I mean, maybe that'll come out at some point. But
yeah. Thank you so much, Windham Rotunda. Rest in peace. Rest in power. The wrestling world is going to miss you immensely. The world is going to miss you immensely.
My final closing note, I will say this. I've been watching wrestling for damn near 4 decades now, and I've gone back and watched a lot of shit, and I can say this now: there will never be another Bray Wyatt.
No, not
there will be many who try, but there will never be another Bray Wyatt ever. We lost a complete. It's like, one of the greatest compliments I ever heard about Jimi Hendrix was a total one-off. Like, no one was ever going to be Jimi Hendrix. He was whatever he was. There will never be another Bray Wyatt.
Wyatt was lightning in a bottle.
Yes.
And unfortunately, that bottle will not be able to be opened again.
And we come to
my inspiration.
Our mutual favorite. The first time ever I met Matthew Laws, it was in a hotel lobby in St. Louis, Missouri, the night before the Royal Rumble. And I'm walking into the lobby, and I recognized him. There was like a double glass door, and I recognized Matt because he had been on Wrestle Vault a month or so prior, in what turned out to be our last episode. And I recognized Matty, and then he turned around and he had on the Funk You shirt.
Still have my favorite shirt.
And I had this weird notion, even as much as I had it when I first worked with him and talked with him, and then I saw the Terry Funk, I was like, this is my little brother from another mother whom I've never met, because I've never ran into anyone in my life who repped the Terry Funk gear. And I know, okay, worst possible case scenario, me and this guy are going to be able to sit and chat about Terry Funk. Terry Funk, my God.
Terry Funk is my God.
I still remember the first time I ever watched anything involving Terry Funk, and it was probably, when you look at his career, one of the least good things he ever did. But it was Slamboree 1994.
It was the time he started doing ECW shit.
Yeah, it was Slamboree 1994, which if you remember back, Slamboree used to be, like how Mania weekend is when they induct Hall of Fame guys. Slamboree was that for WCW for a while. That was when they inducted guys into the Hall of Fame, was Slamboree weekend.
Wait. Was it the WCW Hall of Fame or the NWA Hall of Fame?
WCW, into the WCW Hall of Fame.
How many people were ever inducted into that?
See, 93, 94, 95. It only lasted for they only did it for like 3 years. I think it was 93, 94, 95, and I don't even think they did it in 96. So it was a very short-lived thing. But Slamboree was when they had their Hall of Fame induction. And Slamboree 94 comes around and they induct, I remember Ernie the Cat Ladd, the Crusher, Dick the Bruiser, the Masked Assassin.
Ernie Ladd damn near 2 decades before WWE did.
Yep. And Terry Funk was at the event and he was pissed off. I mean, this is,
crazy and
this is kayfabe,
middle-aged.
Terry Funk was pissed off that he wasn't inducted into the Hall of Fame, and he was set that night to have a match with God, my brain just went blank. Shit, it was Arn Anderson's tag team partner, one of the guys in the Horsemen.
Ole?
Not Ole, not Flair, not Arn. Tully Blanchard. So Terry Funk and Tully Blanchard were set to have a match that night. And it was obviously Tully was, past his prime. And it was not the greatest match of all time, but Terry did the moonsault. Terry did Terry things.
That moonsault is still insane to me.
He got disqualified for hitting Tully with the branding iron, wore his ass out with it, bent the motherfucker. And then after...
I think I've seen that spot where he bends the branding iron.
And then after the match, they've got him backstage for the interview, and Terry Funk is just cutting a perfect Terry Funk promo. And, he's going into... Because later that night, Dustin Rhodes had a bunkhouse match, I think, scheduled later in the night.
Was that the one where they're on the truck?
No, that was uncensored 1995. This was May 1994, so about a year earlier. The whole thing with Dusty Rhodes was the son of a plumber, whatever, and Terry Funk closes this promo with because it had been made. Dusty Rhodes had sent in a video promo earlier in the night of him from Hollywood, made the muffin pick through the thick comb, baby. And Terry was like, I'm here tonight. I can't whip on the son of a plumber, but I can whip on the son of a plumber, and you ain't seen the last of me yet. And of course, Terry Funk comes out later in the night and kicks the shit out of Dustin Rhodes. And it was just... And Bobby Heenan was so perfect on commentary that night because he brought up how this goes back to the great rock, because the Funks worked a lot in Florida. Dory and Terry worked a lot in the Florida territory against Dusty. And Bobby made this great comment. This all goes back to 20 years ago, Dusty Rhodes, Dory Funk Sr., Dory Funk Jr., and Terry Funk. This is history repeating itself. And I was just like, God, to this day, it's like, yes, Rhodes and Funks.
And speaking of that, isn't that one of Terry's greatest rivalries in his time, him versus Dusty?
Yeah, the either Terry or Dory Jr., because Dusty, again, you had the great relationship. This is going back to the NWA territory days. Dory Sr. was one of the most respected NWA promoters, along with Eddie Graham in Florida. And they would work a lot with each other between Amarillo and Florida. And Dory Funk Jr., whenever he was NWA World's Champion, worked a ton in Florida. Terry worked a ton in Florida. And, Dusty was the big attraction in Florida, and they would loan him out to work, the Amarillo circuit. So the Funks and the Rhodes, it was great, but I mean, Terry's had so many great rivalries. I wouldn't put him and Dusty, maybe Dory Jr. and Dusty possibly, but Terry, when I think of Terry's great rivalries, I think of him and Jerry Lawler. I think of him and Ric Flair and him and Mick Foley.
And
To me, those are the three big rivalries.
I do want to bring up, because you did actually show me, because I didn't know about the Funk Lawler rivalry whenever I met you. Whenever I went out to your house, you'd shown me, and it's infamous, their empty arena match.
Yeah,
they beat the shit out of each other.
Well, there was the empty arena match, but before that, it was the match before that set up the empty arena. With them in the Mid-South Coliseum, they both got juiced, and it's sad because the video that we have of it is not complete. Like, this was still the days of of tape cameras, and they had to change tape out, so we don't have a full start to finish video of the first match between him and Lawler in the Mid-South Coliseum. We've got the intros, we've got a break, then we've got the first part of the match, then we've got another break, then a second. It's kind of broken up in like 3 or 4 parts, depending on where you can find it. But I mean, he and Lawler absolutely tore the fucking house down, and this was even before the empty. I mean, as Cornette would say, they were throwing babies in the air because Cornette and Lawler were beating the living shit out of each other,
beating the horse piss out of each other.
And Lawler wore wore the white singlet, and it was covered in blood. Terry got juice.
That is one of my favorite wrestling tropes, by the way, is wearing white because you're going to bleed buckets.
Yeah. I mean, it's basic, color scheming, but given the right environment.
And Terry did it a lot.
Well, and another thing I love about Terry is Terry knew how to blade, because he didn't have the scar tissue that Abdullah or Dusty or
Abdullah did shit that he never changed his blade.
Yeah. Well, Terry knew how to blade, because there's 2 ways to blade. There's the right way, which is across. Then there's the wrong way, which is down. Down, because
down.
The way the muscles and the skin grow, you go across, and you don't wind up with that shelf of scar tissue, versus going down if you just do it.
Even some people that did it across, still have that scar tissue. Look at Devon Dudley's forehead.
Yeah, I mean,
because if you look, all of his cuts go across.
Yeah, well, I mean, and again, Devon, and again, I know ECW. He may have dug in a little deeper, maybe.
Since you
or even the original Sheik, the scar tissue he had.
But since you brought up ECW, I would like to bring up the fact that Terry Funk was my introduction to hardcore wrestling. Well, I say hardcore. I've seen
chicken shit, Steve Corino.
I've seen WWF's hardcore when I was younger. Terry Funk was my first introduction to extreme deathmatch style wrestling. His match against Sabu in the barbed wire ropes match, is without a doubt my introduction to deathmatch wrestling. Seeing Sabu tape his bicep back together because he put the barbed wire wrong. Oh, the
thing with Terry that I loved, and again, I don't love the deathmatch or the hardcore thing but I loved Terry, is that he could do a promo that would fucking sell you on the match and think, I am gonna beat this motherfucker to no end. And then in the match, and then in the match, it would work, because even though, and it got a little, almost as he got older, and he wasn't, the spry young man he once was, it got a little better, because you knew he couldn't work a really technical style as he may have in the 70s or early 80s.
But it's crazy.
And you believe Terry was fucking nuts.
Is this 30-year vet was able to sustain his career somehow doing this style.
He reinvented himself.
He reinvented himself, much like Windham Rotunda, like we talked about earlier. Terry Funk was able to adapt the fact that I can't work, 40-minute matches, Broadway. Yeah. I can't go.
Well, and Dory Jr. Dory was always the proficient technique. There was never a question there. Like Dory Jr. was all.
Terry was the prototypical brawler.
Yeah, and from what I've understood, because there's little to no footage of Dory Sr., but from what I understand is, I've only seen one Dory Sr. match that I've ever been able to find. But from what I understand is that Terry got Dory's promo ability and Dory Jr. got Dory Sr.'s wrestling ability. So again, the DNA, as it trickles down, Terry got the mindset, the brain, the promo work, whereas Dory Jr. got the technical, aspect of it.
That we didn't get another Funk.
Dory Jr., I mean, neither one of them had any sons that I know of. I know Terry had all had daughters.
I know that, but the fact that none of the daughters got into wrestling. Well, to be fair, when they were growing up, Terry was doing some fucking crazy shit.
Yes. This is not Dory Jr. and Jack Briscoe spinning toe hold 1975 NWA title match. Yeah, this is,
kids are growing up and going
drivers through tables onto chairs.
Terry bleeding buckets in his 40s and 50s.
Well, and again, I know, going back to when our previous employer, I think it might have been, it was one of the, if it wasn't the first, it was one of the early ones, episodes of the Captain's Table, where we watched the cage match between, it was Sting and Ric Flair versus Terry Funk and Great Muta.
Oh, fantastic match.
And that was the episode where you dressed in Muta paint and misted Dev in the shower. Thank you, Dev, for taking the bump, by the way. But yeah, it was so, because, and Terry's greatest feuds, him and Lawler in the, early 80s, that was awesome. And Terry had done his first retirement of many, which Terry's kind of like the goddamn Rolling Stones. He's retired more times than dirt, but we're always happy to see him come back. And then when he did that comeback in '89, when Terry did that comeback in '89 against Flair, Flair, after that 3-match trilogy against Ricky Steamboat, finally regained the NWA World Title, and Terry was one of the judges at ringside, and then gets up in the ring to congratulate Flair and asks Flair on the spot for a title match, and Flair is in he's
basically calls him Mr. Hollywood.
Yeah, and Terry's like, fuck it, and just starts beating the shit out of Nate and pile drives him through the announce. I mean, that was the birth of Crazy Terry. And God, the matches he and Flair had, the I Quit match at Clash of the Champions, the world title match at Great American Bash. My God, Terry and Flair worked so well together. And I remember once I was watching Cornette do a fantasy booking of how he would have booked the WCW WWF Invasion WrestleMania. And you know what one of his matches was? Taker versus Terry. And he said, 2 guys from Texas. Terry's an NWA WCW legend. Taker's a WWF legend. Terry would let Mark beat the living shit out of him and would be happy to do the job for him. Terry and Undertaker. Can you imagine Terry Funk and the Undertaker? Here's at the time it would have been Biker Taker, Big Red, Big Evil, whatever, and him and Terry Funk. The promos they could have cut, they would have beaten the hell out of each other. Taker would have put Terry
after that Taker with a cattle prod.
Yeah. with the branding iron.
Oh, branding iron, my bad.
Yeah, and that's the one match from like the 14-15 match fantasy booking he did, other than Rock and Sting, which I thought would have been really nice to see. But other than that, Terry and Undertaker, my God, can you just imagine? No holds barred, Undertaker versus Terry Funk in 2001, whatever, 2002. You know, is this like
still doing crazy shit in 2001.
The fact that we never got to see Taker and Sting, we never got to see Taker and Terry. I mean,
Taker and Sting was supposed to happen until Seth Rollins kind of adjusted Sting's back.
Yeah, well, okay. I don't necessarily have a problem with the move, the buckle bomb, but I have a problem with the move, the buckle bomb on a man of Sting's age at that point.
I also have an issue with it whenever it's
not that Seth was reckless, because we know Seth Rollins is one of the greatest, safest workers in the business.
But you also have to remember he's also injured Cena and Finn Balor. And himself, technically.
See, this is the thing. Injuries happen. There's a difference between accidents happening and being reckless.
Yeah.
And I've never seen Seth as being reckless.
Nia Jax was reckless.
Yeah. There's a difference between accidents happening.
Teddy Hart is reckless.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I just mentioned, my favorite memories of him and Lawler, him and Flair, obviously him and Foley.
I remember him. I mainly remember his run in ECW against Raven, against Tommy Turner.
I was about to say, what are your? I mean, because I mentioned mine. Him and Flair, him and Lawler, him and Mick. Matches I would have liked to have seen. What are your Terry moments that you just look back to and it's like, my God, I love this fucking crazy old bastard.
Let's go a little further in the timeline, which I know Cap is like, everybody looks at this gimmick as like a shit on Terry Funk, and it was a shit on Terry Funk, but he took it and he fucking ran with it.
Chainsaw Charlie.
Chainsaw Charlie. That royal.
Yeah, thank you, fucking Kevin Dunn. We can't. No one in New York's going to know who Terry Funk is. Jesus Christ. Fuck you, Kevin Dunn. This is January or February 1998, and you're telling me that professional wrestling fans, whether it be New York, California, or Timbuktu, aren't going to know who Terry Funk is. Fuck you, Kevin Dunn.
I think it was 98, because I'm pretty sure that dumpster match happened at the end of 98.
Yeah, no, the dumpster match was WrestleMania 14 in March of 98.
No, so the dumpster match was on a Raw.
They had a dumpster match at Mania.
With the New Age Outlaws, that was on a Raw.
No, they also had one at Mania 14.
Here, let me look that up real quick. Because I'm pretty sure that was on a Raw, but Mania 14 was also red. So
WrestleMania 14. Cactus Jack and Chainsaw Charlie defeat the New Age Outlaws dumpster match for WWF Tag Team titles.
Okay, yeah, you are correct.
Just because I'm older than you doesn't mean I've forgotten everything, kid.
I understand. Because the pay-per-view was red. The pay-per-view was red. My mind associates that with Raw. But yeah, no, Terry Funk. Yeah, his matches in ECW mostly is what I recall too, because that motherfucker. Oh, and let's not forget the original barbed wire exploding no ropes death match with Atsushi Onita. That is another match. His entire tournament of death that he did out of it is something that I will always go back to and rewatch. Also, him and Mick Foley just like to kill each other in those tournament of death matches.
Did you see it was a photo that Dark Side of the Ring I saw it on Twitter. It was Foley going to visit Terry in the.
Oh, it's so sad.
It it is sad. It was
Apparently Terry Funk had someone trying to impersonate him in like the last days of his life, and he went out and did a video and telling that person to stop impersonating him.
I do remember that, which I thinking back on it now.
Dude, what a weird moment you and me had whenever we were like, wait a fucking second. Jerry Lawler and Terry Funk had a match in like 2005 in MLW?
Yeah. Well, that was the chicken shit Steve Corino
promo. He shoots a promo on Steve Corino. He shoots a promo on Jerry Lawler saying he's going to kill him.
Because they have been fighting since the way back in the Memphis territory. That was the early 80s.
It had literally been a rivalry going for 20 years. And Terry Funk in the promo goes
30 years at that point.
Terry's like,
well, 20 years.
Terry Funk in that promo basically goes, I'm gonna kill this motherfucker.
I just had a thought, and again, we mentioned, we never got to see Terry and Taker. Yeah, Lawler, Hanson, Brody, stuff with Flair. Yeah,
Davey's got 20 years on you, Cap.
Not 20 years. He got 10 on me.
He's 53, isn't he?
Holy shit, Dave's 53.
If I'm not mistaken, that's what he told me.
I thought he was like late 40s.
I'm pretty sure he told me he was in his 50s.
He's well preserved.
Yeah, Dave. I told you I was right. Dave's 53.
Okay.
So
I was
Dave's
thinking of
been around
great
longer than we have, and he's been able to see this stuff live.
I was thinking of great potential Terry opponents, and I just had a thought in my head. Let's say rewind the clock 15, 20 years, and we're still in late 90s, early 2000s. Crazy Terry, when he could still put on a pretty damn good match. Terry Funk, Logan Paul.
What the fuck?
Logan Paul.
I don't think Logan's willing to take Terry's bullshit.
No, I'm thinking of the promos and the match. I'm thinking Logan Paul, starts cutting promos on the old guys. They ain't got what he's got. He's the new legend, whatever, the new legend of pro wrestling.
Logan Paul, trust me, but I don't think Logan Paul would take Terry's shit.
And then out comes Terry Funk, and Terry just, is, giving this guy an old school promo, and Logan, he's just daring Logan, and Logan Paul just, and Terry just smacks the taste out of Logan Paul's mouth, and we've got a match on for SummerSlam or Mania. I love the idea of Terry and Logan Paul working together. For some reason in my mind, I see that as being just beautiful, because ultimately, Terry would have put Logan over, but he would have beaten the shit out of that young man, and he would have put him over. But at the same time,
dude, I know.
Damn it, Terry!
I know you'd hate it, and I know for a fact you'd hate it. Davey says Ishii. That is a dream match.
I don't even know who Ishii is.
Ishii is a New Japan guy. Look him up, because he's got a lot of hard-hitting matches. He works his style kind of similar to Terry. Hangman would have been interesting.
Terry and I was just thinking Terry versus Goldilocks.
Terry versus Mox.
No, because see that's rock on rock. I was thinking Terry.
Steel sharpens steel.
I was thinking Terry against Hangman, or Terry against Dave's favorite guy, whom I hate. Yeah, Terry Funk versus
Dude, no,
Kenny Omega.
prime Terry Funk versus Kenny Omega would be a fucking top tier match, and you could even attest to that.
Oh well, I mean, Terry was one of those guys who could make me interested. Like, forget who his opponent is. If it's Terry, I would be interested, and then if he can make the other guy and make it look.
I would want
And
a
again, it's
bloodbath
kind of a
between
lost
Terry
art
and
that
Omega.
most guys don't have these days. Is Terry was one of those guys who, regardless of who he was facing, got you interested because it. He didn't bring you there to watch the other guy. He brought you there to watch him to see what he would do to the other guy. And it's like I heard a great statement once. Terry Funk could get anybody over any day of the week in his sleep. Jake Roberts could get Jake Roberts over any day of the week in Jake Roberts' sleep. Jake Roberts was phenomenal at getting himself over, at working a great match, at delivering a great promo. But after it was over, no one got over except Jake. That was his one lacking, is that he was not that great at putting other guys. He could get himself over, he could get the match over, he could sell tickets. Terry could get himself over, get the other guy over, sell tickets, sell the match. Yeah. Oh, yes, Dave. Oh my God, I had not even thought about that.
By the way, me and Davey covered the last half of All Out or All In on last Sunday. If you ever go get a chance to catch that, we do cover the entirety of the Adam Cole MJF match, and that match is peak, specifically because they won the tag titles earlier in the night.
I watched some bits and pieces of it. I am extremely upset and frustrated with AEW trying to make MJF a babyface.
I don't think that's what they're doing. Again, I know MJF is playing Adam Cole. I know he's playing the fucking underlying heel.
I'm hoping.
Dude, exactly what he's doing.
That is what it is, because the classic, arms open, go ahead, and that is one of the most classic babyface moves.
I know it is
in the book.
But MJF would be the one to fucking turn that into a goddamn heel move.
And they've had the opportunity twice now, and he hasn't.
He came out wearing a devil mask. What is the devil? The great deceiver. MJF is playing Adam Cole, and everybody else, he's playing the heel still. I am fucking taking that to the grave.
I'm hoping it is just a great heel play. My problem is that Tony Khan doesn't know how to fucking book his ass out of a hole in the ground. And I hate there's a difference.
They are playing it very well because, as I said in the stream, they can't make Adam Cole look like a doofus either. Because if they do that, Adam Cole looks like an idiot and not like the genius heel mastermind that he is and has been portrayed throughout the last, I don't know, fucking 10 years. They are both top level heels. You cannot play one of them as a fucking dumbass.
I'm hoping this is some kind of a play, but again, it's just I fucking hate Tony Khan's booking. This is just such horse shit, because
speaking of booking we didn't like, Billy Gunn, 53 years old, holds a title in 2023.
I got the gist of what they did. at All In, and I basically liked none of it except for Saraya winning
Oh,
the
dude, it was
women's
a good show. It
championship.
was a very damn good show. Will Ospreay
Uh,
beating Jericho is a good move in England.
I just, I am just so dumbfounded. Okay, okay, Will Ospreay winning, very good. Saraya winning, very good. Bucks putting over FTR a year and a half too late. They did it, but they should have fucking done it long time ago. But the big matches, they the main event of this show, I and having MJF and Adam Cole wrestle twice in one night, and then to have essentially no payoff in the end.
They did win the Ring of Honor tag team titles the night earlier in the night, so this does kind of tie into that story as well.
Whoopity doo! They won the Ring of Honor tag. Yeah,
the fact that they won the tag titles is what's tying into the story.
The fifth most popular promotion that you shit out of your ass, Ring of Honor. This event should have been a headline between MJF and CM Punk to determine the true world champion. It should have been either a 2 out of 3 falls, an Iron Man. Well, they had done an Iron Man earlier, so I would say maybe like a 2 out of 3 falls or a cage match, something to put that feud over. I'm not trying to knock Adam Cole, but he is not a main eventer. And there is no point in having MJF work with him. This is just, this is Tony Khan jack off booking. I do not like what they're doing with MJF right now. He should be in the ring only with guys who are the best. I will agree with
Davey here as well, because Aussie Open is genuinely one of the best tag teams in the world if you go and watch their matches.
If you're going to have them beat Aussie Open, why do it on the exact same goddamn fucking night they're supposed to face each other for the world title?
That I didn't understand, but
do that on a Dynamite. Do that on a Collision. Don't do that on a pay-per-view, because you're just taking away from what they're supposed to do later in the night. And MJF shouldn't even be working with Adam Cole. There's no... Adam Cole is not getting over because Adam Cole can't get over because Adam Cole ain't that fucking good. Adam Cole ain't that fucking good.
Dude, he's totally over.
They're trying to get Adam Cole over at the expense of MJF. MJF should be...
If you don't think he's over, go listen to every entrance he does and listen to the crowd reaction when he does his entrance.
There are 2 guys... Well, actually, no. There's 5 guys in AEW who are worth a shit. MJF, CM Punk.
And CM Punk wants to quit, by the way.
Let me finish. MJF, CM Punk, Bryan Danielson, FTR. Those are the only 5 guys in that fucking promotion who, at this point, are worth a shit. There are other guys who are projects, guys like, Jack Perry, Hook. There's guys who are projects, but those are the 5 guys who fucking matter, who can actually get eyeballs, draw money. Why in...
Just a difference in opinions.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's always a big difference of opinion in this thing, because while Dave is the old guy, he's more interested in the newer guys. I'm the young guy who's more interested in, classic booking. And then there's Maddie, who's caught in the middle, who kind of likes everything.
Does he say hi from the coffin? Because he's been tweeting from the coffin since he's been put in this weekend.
A year ago, the Bucks, Omega, Hangman should have been fucking fired. And if it's true what we heard about Jungle Boy, he should have been fucking fired. You cannot have these guys going into business for themselves especially when you've got guys who can actually draw money that they are fucking with. Kenny Omega doesn't draw a fucking dime. The Young Bucks don't draw a fucking dime. Hangman Page doesn't draw a dime. Nobody gives a flying fuck about those guys. Swerve Strickland, future champion. Yes, I love Swerve Strickland. I'm sorry to do the Terry Graham there, but you know, there's guys in my opinion who never could draw a dime.
But they do.
What dimes does Kenny Omega draw?
Who literally just drew 81,000 people at Wembley? That was paid attendance.
Who outside of the indie, fringe community gives two flying fucks about Kenny Omega? Kenny Omega is over with the fringe, community that's down here. He's not over enough to get people from,
We just filled Wembley, bro.
They filled Wembley because Wembley has been starved. They did a great job in filling it, but
they filled Arthur Ashe in New York as well. New York's a big WWE territory.
I honestly don't think Kenny Omega is worth the powder and lead it would take to light his ass on fire. I don't think the Bucks. I don't think.
I know that, but I just have to have arguments to the fact that you don't think that they draw money.
I mean, I could, if given the chance, I would try to fix Hangman Page. I would try to fix Jack Perry. I would try to build Hook. I would try. There is.
At this point, I would use the Young Bucks to put talent over. That's what I would use the Young Bucks for.
No, you use no. You can't use the Bucks to put talent over because the Bucks aren't over. You use guys who are over to put over guys who aren't. The Bucks are not fucking over. The Bucks are useless. I weigh more than the two of those guys combined. Nobody believes in any possible realm those two would be worth a shit in a fucking wrestling match.
David's got a point here as well.
Yeah, that's Japan, Dave. This is the United States. Two completely different worlds.
And he brought eyes from the U.S. to Japan. More people bought from U.S. for Kenny Omega matches because of it.
I watched two matches Omega was involved in Japan, too.
You did. Just you. I will say, though, we do have about another half hour of the show. We will say our rests in peace to Terry, to Windham, to people who meant immense to the wrestling world, no matter which generation you're from.
Terry, I almost wish that time I was down in Amarillo that I had the time to go to the Double Cross Ranch. I was so tempted.
Do you know where it is?
No, I don't. But I was in a position
to drive around Amarillo.
No, I was in Amarillo. I had about a 3-4 hour period of time in between. I had to catch my next bus, and I knew I didn't have the time. I was like, damn it! If I had an extra day, I would just rent a car, find the Double Cross Ranch, leave a thank you Terry note on the gates of the ranch
or something.
Just a nice thank you, then go to the Big Texan, take on the 72-ounce steak challenge.
Oh.
Which I still at some point I want to do, and I may do that in Terry's honor at some point.
Oh, dude, we have to go down to Texas and try that.
I would do it in honor of Terry Funk. I would starve myself for about a day and a half, 2 days, go to the Big Texan in Amarillo and take on the 72-ounce steak challenge. And if I were able to, I would dedicate it to Terry. Because I think I could do it if I'm hungry enough.
Now, before we went live, I was trying to find a way to transport a 10-bell salute So before we go on to our football news, because for some reason there's a lot, let's just give a good 10 seconds as I throw back up the graphic for Bray and Terry. All right. Well, so a lot of fucking happened in football. Broncos' entire fucking team seems to be on the goddamn IR. Why does this happen? I hate this timeline.
Well, we do have some breaking news.
Did somebody else die? Please tell me no.
No. Well, an organization may have died, but the Indianapolis Colts were unable to find a trade partner for Jonathan Taylor. The running back
we went live.
Remains on the PUP list. Lucas Giolito, among 6 Angels placed on waivers.
Randall Grichuk just came from the Rockies, so he was excited.
I cannot wait for Tree to do another Artie Moreno. The Angels have got to be the worst run franchise in sports.
I couldn't think of one, and the Broncos are currently ran by the same people that run Walmart. So
Walmart is a successful world conglomerate, multi-billion-dollar corporation.
You got a good point. They got
Artie Moreno's a jackass.
So what you're meaning to tell me is the Broncos should be throwing actual money at certain players.
Well, maybe a legitimate head coach, a legitimate quarterback, an offensive line, a defense.
He's got Super Bowls.
Fuck Sean. He's got one Super. Sean Payton is the biggest fucking.
He's getting one this year. That's why I said Super Bowls.
Sean Payton and Mike McCarthy are probably like the 2 biggest douchebag head coaches on planet Earth. I cannot fucking stand either goddamn one of them.
Mike McCarthy might have been one of the biggest failures as a head coach. I'm not even going to lie, because I thought he was a good coach in Green Bay. And then it was mostly Aaron Rodgers, wasn't it?
So in the wake of Shohei Ohtani tearing his UCL, which is going to require Tommy John, Mike Trout getting hurt again, the Angels have basically waived 6 guys, 6 people. This is the biggest fuck it, we give up I've ever seen in baseball. Now, I have never seen this before.
How many of those did they literally just trade for like 2-3 weeks ago? Because
at least 4 of them.
Lucas Giolito, one more from you guys.
Ronaldo Lopez.
They didn't trade the other guy they got from the Rockies.
Hunter Renfroe. That's another one.
Hunter Renfroe was a weird one to me because I thought he was a good guy all season. Oh. Uh-oh. Cap. Well, here's hoping Cap comes back in a second because I think he was just pulling it up. While that happens, Windham was that creative that he was able to develop the Bray character in the same vein. Oh, hey, Cap's back. Amazing, amazing creative mind. Yes, he was, David.
So the Angels are imploding.
Yes, they are.
In ways that I've never even... Trey Lance calls breath of fresh air moving on with the Cowboys.
You think that's a breath of fresh air, my boy? Are you ready to start week 3? Because Dak ain't it.
Trey Lance, I really... they may be at this point, who knows? But, God damn it. Trey Lance, I have not given up on him yet. The 49ers, due to circumstances beyond their control, gave up on a guy whom they should have never drafted in the first place, but because they did, they should have given him more of a chance.
Dude,
but Trey Lance, I think, is one of those possible diamonds in the rough that could be molded, but Mike McCarthy ain't the guy to mold him. because Mike McCarthy couldn't wipe his ass in 3 tries. But Yankees, the New York Yankees. I am loving the implosion of the New York Yankees.
So am I. I'm happy just being comfortably above them now.
I never thought I would see the day when Red Sox fans would be dog shit, but they're so happy that the Yankees are elephant shit.
I get to laugh at my co-host tomorrow. Greg's a Yankees fan. I get to laugh at him.
MLBPA is reviewing safety protocols after Ronald Acuna was attacked by fans.
That was just a fault on the fucking security. There's nothing else that could have happened there.
Trying to see what's.
I will say, one of those people in the fucking mugshots looked like they was tweaking, like hardcore.
So we've got some potential news thing today. Yeah, I really needed that after this White Sox week that I've had. Thank you for just pissing upon my grave.
I had to bring it up. Sorry.
So we've got a potential little. I'm going to go ahead and post this up because anybody think Joe Burrow? This is getting kind of interesting here because Joe Burrow still hadn't gotten his big boy contract.
Wait, he's still rocking that rookie contract?
He's still rocking the rookie deal.
There's no way one of the best quarterbacks in the league is just rocking a rookie contract.
Burrow's still rocking the rookie deal. And apparently a snag in contract negotiations, that may be why Burrow has that calf strain, isn't performing, isn't practicing.
I don't know, dude. If he shows
this is kind of interesting to me because the Bengals have been to the AFC title game back-to-back years, and they haven't paid Burrow yet.
And they went to the Super Bowl one of those.
All Coach Zach Taylor has said is, we'll see. I think he has a quote. I think he has a very healthy body, and I'm encouraged by that. That's what the head coach had to say.
Dude, they have to pay Burrow. Burrow's wanting a big contract. You have to pay it. Because if Deshaun Watson got $250 fucking million guaranteed, Joe Burrow deserves at least $300 million.
Michael Orr, the subject of the movie The Blind Side, is supposedly
story to cover, hasn't it?
Seeking record payouts from all parties involved.
Well, dude, that movie was an all-time movie. Like
it was an Oscar winner. It made a lot of money, and apparently he didn't. Michael Orr never drew a dime. Yeah, unfortunately.
He drew a dime in the Super Bowl, but other than his NFL career, he should have got a lot more money out of that movie based off of him. Such a dumb fucking story.
I mean, there is just, and we're getting, you know, we got about 27 minutes left. Next week, by the way, we have to advertise this a little bit. Next week is the RAWBall Fantasy Football Draft.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We have 12 individuals who will enter the cage.
We're still an NFL squad.
We're still looking for potentially 2 more. Those whom we have reached out to, including both guys. God, I hate this reverse thing. The 2 guys that this guy sent, one flamed out. The other has not signed his team up yet. Buck said he is going to do so by the end of the day. So we are still looking for potentially 2 more to join the RAWBall Fantasy Football Podcast League. Draft will be next Tuesday, 5:30 p.m. Auction draft. Dave's going to be with us. It is going to be fun.
We're gonna be here for a while. Like this podcast is gonna go for a minute.
It's probably gonna take somewhere around. I'm going to say plus or minus 3 hours for depending on again how many we get. But I would like it if Dave joined us on camera for that, just for fun's sake, because it's going to be fun.
It'll be me and Devin on screen on this camera.
Then me get Dave in. I'll see if I can get Buck to join. You know, we'll to make this fun because I think this is going to be a shit blast. Awesome. Watching all of us bid against each other for players to see who gets whom.
$100 at Amon-Ra St. Brown.
I would say the Japanese mustache strategy that you went with in the baseball league might not be the best idea for the NFL. Just tossing that one out there, Matthew. I'm not unveiling any rankings this week, as I told the guys earlier. I've given you about a month of freebies. I'm Wait, so what is this here?
Burrow's salary. Okay, so he's still got another 3 years on this contract.
Looks like 4 years. 2023.
2024. Okay, no, 2 years. Yeah.
Dave, I'm confused by your numbers here.
But I'm seeing in 2025 he's an unrestricted free agent.
So that's 2 years from now. So he wants a. So maybe he got a little bit of an extension, but he's wanting his big boy deal.
Yeah. Maybe it was a rookie deal with like an odd player option or team option or something.
Well, rookies, there's the 5th-year option. So Burrow's been in the league, so 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022. So they obviously picked up his 5th-year option last year. So he's $11 million cap hit so he's an $11 million cap hit this year.
It says that he was a rookie in 2020, Cap. Signed his 4-year rookie contract in 2020.
So 2020, 2021, 22, 23, 24.
The other numbers were cap hits, Cap.
Okay, cap hits. All right. That because that includes the signing bonus.
Yeah.
So $11 million this year, $29 million next year, and then 2025, an unrestricted free agent. So, yeah, I mean, he
is proven to be one of the best quarterbacks in the league.
I mean, did they wind up in the AFC title game back-to-back years without him?
I don't think they did it with A.J. McCarron.
They didn't do it with Carson Palmer.
They didn't do it with Andy Dalton.
They didn't do it with either one of us.
I'm sure shit could have tried.
Well, not that you wouldn't have tried, Matty, and not that it wouldn't have been a valiant effort, but I'm just going to go out on a thin limb and say this. You are not, and neither am I, nor is Dev, an NFL franchise quarterback.
The first time I get hit, I'm probably done for season. I'm getting up, looking to the sideline, going, I don't want to do that again.
Oh, we've got a little bit of Red Sox news.
We're 4th in the division.
Jarren Duran set to undergo season-ending surgery.
I just hope he comes back good.
Let's see.
Is there any more word on the Stephon Diggs situation? Is he coming to play? Oh, Josh Jacobs signed a contract. He's with you guys for another season.
He took the Saquon Barkley thing.
12 mil, though. That's a good contract for a season. Dude, no, he's worth it for this season. He is worth it for this season. And switching to his old college number 8.
I will say this. Not that I would do this live on stream, but if I were to masturbate and ejaculate into this Kleenex tissue, I would have far more to show for it than the Raiders will have come January.
We don't know that. You guys could be a wild card
Well,
team.
I know that.
You could be a wild card team this year.
Garoppolo is a goddamn $28 million cap hit, and he isn't worth the Charmin Extra Soft he wipes his ass with. Devontae Adams isn't going to be shit because who's going to throw him the goddamn ball? Darren Waller's gone. Josh Jacobs got a 1-year contract, so he's basically going to mail it in until next free agency next year. No offensive line, no defense apart from Max Crosby, who I'm still not all that crazy about. He's a pretty good player, but not a great player. This team is dog shit.
Also, why is Max Crosby the Raiders' X factor in this year's game?
I don't know. I'm in year 2 of my Raiders franchise, and I'm heavily debating on trading him because he doesn't do a whole hell of a lot. At least in my 3-4 scheme, he doesn't do a whole lot.
Davey did an
yeah. I would say about 3. I would say roughly 3 hours.
So speaking of fantasy, Cap, how's baseball fantasy looking?
Fantasy baseball. Let's take a quick little look here.
Am I still at the bottom? I bet I am because I spent $100 on Shohei Ohtani and the rest of my team was filler.
Let's see. No, I'm still in 6th place here. Let's take a look here. So we got Steve Champagne up by 4 games over my brother Justin. So we got Taylor is in 3rd. Casey Lilly is in 4th. Dev is in 5th.
Holy shit, Dev fell far.
Well, Dev is tied for 4th. I'm in 6th. John Rice is about 5 games behind me. Then we got Venus Flytrap, aka Dave, who is in 8th, and then we got Kevin Euclid's batting stance, just swinging their dick out there, pissing in the wind.
Don't worry, Aaron Rodgers' New York ayahuasca trip is going to do so much better this year.
It's going to be what? Lawrence
Jones, Geno Smith.
I like Trevor Lawrence as my backup. I don't like him as my starter. Geno Smith, I wouldn't touch with a 10-foot
I wouldn't
pole.
touch Geno Smith. I would touch Jared Goff. Jared Goff might be my fucking backup this year.
Jones who?
Mac? There's no fucking way you're going Mac Jones.
It's Dave. He's a Patriot guy.
Bro, that's like going Ezekiel Elliott just because he became a Patriot.
Mac Jones, I really don't know. Me as a jury, I'm still out on Mac Jones just because.
Do you think he's going to be a good fantasy quarterback this year?
Oh fuck no. No.
So hold on, because I've not done fantasy football like legitimately. This will be the first time I've ever done. Oh, Daniel Jones, Danny.
Yeah, he ain't gonna be shit either.
But no, how much do they account for their legs at quarterback? Like, how good of a fantasy?
Well, every touchdown is worth 6 points. Every passing yard is worth 0.05. Every rushing yard is worth 0.10.
So they do account rushing yards pretty good.
Yeah. It's basically 1 rushing yard is worth 2 passing yards.
So a Justin Fields or a Lamar Jackson is a safe quarterback to pick.
Yeah, and there's also points taken off for interceptions, points taken off for fumbles.
So,
but essentially,
so you've never gone for Jameis Winston?
No, never. But essentially, the way it works is a passing yard or a rushing yard is worth 2 passing yards. Is how the math equals out.
Okay. But
touchdowns are equal. Any touchdown scored, quarterback, running back, wide receiver, defense, tight end, whatever, it's all 6 points. Yeah, a touchdown is worth 6 points.
I know what defense I'm willing to spend money on. So
I actually was redoing my defense today because I was trimming a lot of the fat off my draft board, and I cut my list of defenses down to 6. There's 6 defenses I'm looking at.
I know you said that you're not doing any more, but you never did defenses.
I did.
I do not remember you doing defenses.
I did defenses.
I do not remember you at least doing it on this show.
No, I did it on the show. Right now, I have trimmed my defenses that I'm looking to draft down to 6. Um, in no particular order: Miami, Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Buffalo, New Orleans, San Francisco.
Yeah, I do not remember you doing defenses.
I did defenses.
Most expensive draft was Jamar Chase for $69. Nice.
Yeah, that sounds about like what I've been seeing.
Really? For Jamar?
Justin Jefferson's going for more.
My coworker got Diggs and Ty Hill for pretty cheap, he said.
It's every auction draft is its own animal. That's why I love it, because ultimately it comes down to, what are you willing to pay? How bad do you want this guy? And there's some guys I want quite a bit. There's other guys who may surprise you. I don't want a piece of. I don't trust them.
So you're willing to spend a lot of money on Russell Wilson, is what you're saying? Justin Jefferson went for $67 in his draft.
That's still, I mean, that's pretty close.
So wide receiver. So you're telling me skill players like wide receivers and running backs go for higher than quarterbacks in fantasy?
Yeah, because there's essentially the way the point system works is running backs and wide receivers constitute basically half of your lineup, because you start 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, and a flex, which is either a tight end, a running back, or 6
another receiver.
Yeah, so 6 of your starting 9 are skill position players. So that's why they go for more. But we have seen a trend and a change in the last 3 to 5 years, where it used to be where you just could take a quarterback off the waiver wire and you could win. Now with guys like Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, those guys are turning into X factors in fantasy, because they are scoring so many fucking points that you can be shitty at a particular spot.
Do you by chance have the points for that Tua Tagovailoa game where he did like 500 passing yards and like 60 on the ground?
I don't have that in front of me, but I can give you a. So he had how many passing yards?
I can look it up actually real quick.
Yeah, look it up, and I can tell you how many points he scored that week.
To fantasy 500. To Tagovailoa 500 yard game. Fantasy. All right. Come on. Okay, so it wasn't 500. It was 469.
Okay, 469 passing. How many touchdowns?
Okay, it's actually right in front of me. So it was 469. He had 6 touchdowns, 2 interceptions.
And how many rushing?
And the rushing, come on, give it to me, ESPN. He only had 1 rushing yard.
Okay. All right. So 469 times 0.05 is 23.45. 6 times 6 is 36. Minus 2 for the interceptions, and then.
Do they count passing completions and shit like that?
No.
Okay.
So 23.45 plus 36 minus 2
plus 1
plus 0.10, 57.55 points.
Is that a good
Which
game?
which that would win you your week almost if you're almost unless your entire team just laid down and died. That would damn near win you your week.
So Tua had that damn good of a game.
Yeah, typically out of a quarterback, you're looking for roughly a stud ass quarterback. You're looking for around 30 points a game. 20, 25 to 30, roughly, but more on the 30 side. Running backs, you're looking for 15 to 20. Wide receivers, same. Tight ends, there's Travis Kelce, who just shoves his cock down your throat, and then there's everybody else.
George Kittle kind of does that still too.
But they're so touchdown dependent. There's different. There's tight ends other than Kelce are touchdown dependent. If they're not scoring
yards,
yeah, Kelce gets yards and catches. Other guys, they're touchdown dependent. Defenses, you're looking for defenses that don't give up points, don't give up yards, and cause turnovers. And if you're lucky to get a pick six, you're slapping you're slapping your balls in your opponent's face. And then kickers, kickers, you just want a kicker from a good offense who's going to give you points every week.
You would draft Russ before Tua? To be fair, Tua did have 3 fucking concussions last year.
So did Matty.
I felt like it. Watching the Broncos, I fucking felt like it.
So you had 17 concussions last year.
Tree did how many greatest games on the Broncos last year?
Quite a few.
And fucking Perna did how many of the worst games he's ever seen on the Broncos?
How many games did Denver win last year? What, 6, 7?
I feel like we won 6, and all of those were fluke wins.
It is going to be so much fun. Not just a fantasy football draft next Tuesday, but once RAWBall Red Zone starts on Sundays, it is going to be so much fun watching Maddie just disintegrate into just plasma.
We literally kick off opening Sunday. Like, I cannot.
Oh, you guys are going to kick our ass, and I'm not going to be.
I don't even think that. Like, we're watching Red Zone. We're not even able to watch the fucking game that we want to watch.
Yeah, but you guys are going to kick our asses. I'm not even. I think the Raiders winning 3 or 4 games this year, and I still stand by that.
By the way, I will be sending you me and Devin's first couple months of that sling.
Okay, very good. Yeah, send that to me, and I'll get the. Because we don't actually have to. It's September 10th is when it starts. Is when that's the first Sunday. So
7th, the 7th is opening day. So the 7th. Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
It's 10th. Yeah. So as long as you get it to me for those first couple of months, by then I'll get it set up and we'll be good to go. All right. Anything else we need to get into before we put the kibosh on?
Not unless there's any massive MLB news, NFL news. Anybody massive get traded? I saw Tom Brady talking shit, getting the Raiders hyped for a game in the preseason. The Broncos.
Yeah, good luck with that. One of Tom Brady's "let's fucking goes" couldn't motivate this squad to do anything but take a piss.
The Broncos 41-0 the Rams, which tells me that we are going to win at least 5 games this season. If the preseason tells me anything, this is going to be a fucking fun season. So,
and this is actually the last RAWBall before because next Tuesday is the draft, and then bam, we're into
this next Sunday.
We're into RAWBall Red Zone. I am taking off this Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. I am taking a nice little vacation to get myself prepped and ready, because once RAWBall Red Zone starts week 1, it is going to be an 18-week slog
Dude, it's not just 18 weeks. We got every other postseason game as well.
Well, yeah, true, but I mean, we'll be picking and choosing those. Like RAWBall Red Zone is going to be 7 hours every Sunday.
Yeah, I was about to say the postseason games is ones that we're like, oh, this will be the best game of the weekend, or
yeah. RAWBall Red Zone is every Sunday 7 hours of us just getting piss face drunk and hating each other's guts and cheering on our fantasy teams.
And the return of Maddie's fucking Sunday Fun Day parlays.
Oh yes.
So
the degenerate gambler, he's going to be losing twice. He's going to be losing his fantasy team. No, he's been losing 3 times. He's watching his bets tank, the Broncos tank, and his fantasy team tank.
I've been saving some money in my FanDuel account, so there's going to be some pretty big bets going into this Sunday.
Well, that's why we're going to be starting at 11:30, so that Maddie can give the Sunday Fun Day parlay, the Maddie Sunday Fun Day parlay before the games actually start at noon, to to anybody who wants to drown on the Titanic with him.
It's going to be fun.
It's going to be a shitload of fun, and I can't wait. We are going to be so fucking pissed drunk by 7 o'clock on Sundays. It's not even going to be funny.
So dumb. I've got to fucking let that shit sober up before I drive home.
I'm waiting. I mean, when once we find out for sure who's in the league and the schedule shakes out, but the week or weeks whenever you and Dev play each other.
Week 1. Me and Devin literally play each other week 1.
Let's see here. Looking at this. Well, I mean, we're still waiting because if we get more people in, that could upset the schedule. So we're still waiting to see.
I was about to say, last I looked, I'm playing Devin.
Let me see here. As of right now, you're playing Deech.
Oh, that might be Tyson.
Yeah, you're playing Tyson as of right now. But again, the schedule will shake out once we for sure get whoever's going to be for sure in the league.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's going to be fun as shit.
All right. Well, is there anything else we want to plug before we say our goodbyes?
Rest in peace, Bray. Rest in peace, Terry. Thank you for everything that you gave us all over the years. I could not say thank you anymore. I wish I could hug each and every one of you again.
Well, this is the point in the show where I remind you all to stay safe, stay healthy, stay hydrated. Devin, we missed you for this show. We love you. And thank you all for tuning in tonight. Love you all. And for the first time in the show, the song.